I played it safe my entire life. I never took risks, never chased dreams, never stepped out of line. I thought safety meant success until the day I lost everything and realized I'd never really lived at all. I used to think life was about not messing up, just surviving, keeping the job, paying the bills, staying out of trouble. Never ruffle feathers, never step out too far, never risk looking like a damn fool. That kind of mindset doesn't start in adulthood. No, it creeps in early. My dad used to say, "Better safe than sorry, kid." He worked the same warehouse job for 37 years. Never once asked for a raise. Never once got fired either. He wore the same navy coveralls for so long. I still remember the smell of them. Oil, metal, and some kind of rusted-out pride. Me? I followed suit. Grew up in Dayton, Ohio. Got a degree in business because it seemed sensible. Married young because that seemed right. Took the first job I was offered, assistant manager at a local hardware chain. Not glamorous, not fun, not challenging. But safe. Safe like an old dog sleeping under the porch. Every time life offered a crossroads, I picked the road that was already paved and well-lit. I never chased dreams because dreaming meant wanting, and wanting meant risking, and risking meant losing. And I couldn't stand the idea of losing anything. So I played it safe. Always. Until, one Thursday morning, I found myself staring at the mirror in the break room at work. Fluorescent lights humming above, the stale smell of burnt coffee clinging to the walls, and I couldn't recognize the man looking back. Gray starting to take over my temples. Lines settling in around my mouth like they'd signed a lease. There was nothing wrong with the man in the mirror. That was the scariest part. He looked fine. Average. Respectable, even. But he was hollow. Something in me shifted that day. It wasn't a bolt of lightning or some dramatic outburst. No, it was quieter than that. Like hearing a strange noise in the attic but deciding not to check it out. Just knowing something was up there. Lurking. That night, after work, I sat in my car in the driveway for almost an hour. Just sitting. Hands on the wheel, engine off. I could see my wife through the window, sitting at the kitchen table, probably scrolling through her phone. We didn't talk much anymore. Just coexisted. Two responsible people living a responsible life. I didn't go inside right away. I started asking myself questions I hadn't asked in years. Who am I? What do I even want? What the hell happened to me? And I couldn't answer. That terrified me more than anything. I didn't sleep much that night. Tossed around under the covers like I was being punished for something I hadn't realized I'd done. The next morning, I woke up with a buzzing in my chest. A weird kind of restlessness. Not excitement. Not exactly dread. Just this itchy, crawling energy that wouldn't let me sit still. So I did something I hadn't done in a long, long time. I called in sick. And I went for a walk. Just walked. No destination, no plan. Left my phone at home, which almost gave me a panic attack, but I pushed past it. The streets were quiet. The air had that crispness to it like fall was leaning in early. I ended up at a park I hadn't been to since I was a kid. Swings rusting, wood chips faded gray. I sat on a bench and watched the wind push dead leaves around like they weighed nothing at all. Then it hit me hard. I was one of those leaves. Getting pushed around by the wind. Never standing my ground. Never daring to break from the pack. And if I didn't change something soon, I'd be dust before I ever truly lived. That's when I knew. Something had to give. The thing about realizing your life's been on autopilot? It doesn't come with instructions on what to do next. I didn't quit my job. I didn't leave my wife. I didn't storm off into the sunset with a duffel bag over my shoulder and a dream in my heart. I still woke up the next day. Still went to work. Still made coffee and nodded at Greg from accounting like everything was perfectly normal. But something wasn't normal anymore. It was like I'd peeked behind a curtain I didn't know existed. And once you've seen the machinery, the wires, the smoke and mirrors, it's impossible to believe in the illusion again. So I started doing small things. Things that, to an outsider, probably seemed like nothing. But to me, each one was a little rebellion. I said no to staying late. I ordered something new at the diner instead of my usual tuna melt. I took a different route home. And then one night, I opened an old notebook. One I hadn't touched since college. Back then, before responsibility smothered the fire, I used to write poems, little stories, scraps of dialogue from movies I hadn't made yet. I flipped through those yellowed pages like they were relics of a man I once knew. I could still smell the ink. Still see the younger version of myself in the handwriting, messy, eager, hopeful. There was one quote I'd scribbled on the inside cover. "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." Joseph Campbell. Back then I thought it was deep. Now it felt like a taunt. That night I tried to write again. Nothing fancy. Just a page. Just anything. And it was hard. Like digging into dry ground with your bare hands. But something came out. A voice I'd forgotten I had. After that, the days felt different. Still gray, still repetitive, but less numbing. Like I'd scratched a little hole in the wall of my cell and was starting to see daylight trickle through. Then came the punch to the gut. One Friday afternoon, our regional manager, slicked back hair, pressed shirt, way too enthusiastic about spreadsheets, called me into his office. Said the company was restructuring. Said my position was being phased out. Nothing personal, he said, like that helped. Just like that, 12 years gone. I walked out of that building carrying a cardboard box, my name tag rattling inside like a broken piece of dignity. And you know the weirdest part? I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel dread. I felt relief. Pure, raw, terrifying relief. Like the universe had kicked open the cage door and said, "Okay, big guy. Let's see what you're made of." I sat in the car for a long time. No tears. No yelling. Just a quiet sort of hum under my skin. The kind you get before a storm breaks. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove. Nowhere in particular. Just miles of road and my thoughts riding shotgun. I ended up 2 towns over, in front of a tiny bar with a crooked sign and flickering neon lights. It wasn't much, but it had live music on Fridays and the kind of cheap whiskey that burns a little truth into your throat. I sat in a booth in the back, nursed a drink, and watched the guy on stage sing about heartbreak and redemption like his life depended on it. And maybe it did. That's when I met her. She slid into the booth across from me like she'd done it 100 times before. Dark hair, sharp eyes, confidence that walked in ahead of her. "You look like a man who just lost something," she said, sipping her beer. I smirked. "I lost everything." She raised an eyebrow. "Then congratulations. Most people never get the chance." And just like that, the night changed. Her name was Lana. Not short for anything. Not a nickname. Just Lana. We talked for hours in that little bar, swapping stories like poker chips. She told me she used to be a paralegal, hated every minute of it, and walked out in the middle of a Tuesday morning conference call after realizing no one would notice if she was gone. Now she taught yoga and managed a vintage record store. "Barely pays the bills, but at least I can sleep at night," she said. There was something about her that cut through all my defenses. She didn't ask for small talk, she asked for truth. That kind of honesty is dangerous. Addictive. By the time we stumbled out of the bar, the sky had gone dark and the streetlights buzzed like tired insects. She turned to me, hands stuffed in her jacket pockets. "So, what now, jobless Joe?" I gave a half smile. "Honestly? I have no idea." She paused. "Good. That's the only honest place to start." Then she leaned in and kissed me. Just like that. No build-up, no hesitation. Soft, but firm, like she was daring me to wake up. I didn't stop her. I didn't think about my wife. Or the mortgage. Or the slow, safe life I built like a prison around myself. I just felt. The next morning, I woke up with a hangover and a 1,000-pound question sitting on my chest. What the hell am I doing? The guilt came creeping in, quiet and slick. But underneath it was something else. Not regret. Something raw and ugly and honest. Desire. Not just for Lana. For life. For risk. For the kind of chaos that means you're finally alive. I didn't tell my wife. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That part of the story's messy, and I'm not proud of it. But I promised to be honest here, and the truth is I wasn't ready to break it all down yet. I was still holding both ends of the rope. Over the next few weeks, I saw Lana more and more. We'd meet for coffee, for late-night drives, for impulsive road trips with no destination. She pushed me, challenged me. She asked the hard questions. "Why do you always look like you're waiting for permission?" That one stuck with me. I didn't know how to answer. I'd spent so much of my life waiting, for approval, for guarantees, for the green light. But all of a sudden I started realizing nobody was coming. There was no voice from the sky. No adultier adult to hand me a permission slip. It had to come from me. So I started doing things I'd never done before. I went skydiving. I stood up at an open mic and read one of my old poems, voice shaking like hell. I applied for jobs I actually wanted, not just ones I was qualified for. And I started writing again, really writing. Not just scraps and half-thoughts. Full pages. Stories about fear, about failure, about people who cracked their lives open to see what was inside. The funny thing? The more I leaned into fear, the less power it had over me. One night, after Lana and I watched a band play at some gritty little dive in Columbus, she turned to me and said, "You're not the same guy I met 3 weeks ago." I looked at her and replied, "Good." He was half asleep. But the thing about waking up is, you can't go back to sleep. And life doesn't wait for you to figure it all out. Things were about to get messy. Secrets have a weight. Even if you keep them tucked away nice and neat, they press down on you. Slowly, quietly, like the way a leaky roof doesn't fall in all at once. It just drips, drip by drip, until one day the whole damn ceiling gives out. It happened on a Wednesday. My wife, Erin, was waiting at the kitchen table when I walked in. Her arms were crossed. Her mouth a flat line. "I know," she said. Just like that. I stood there, keys still in my hand. She didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just looked at me like someone reading a weather report about a storm they always knew was coming. "I found the notebook," she added. "And your phone." Lana. There it was. The quiet crumbling of a life I had built brick by brick for nearly 15 years. I sat down across from her. Didn't lie. Didn't run. Just told her the truth as best I could. About feeling dead inside. About losing my job. About waking up after decades of sleepwalking through life. She listened. All the way through. Then she nodded slowly. "I figured something was wrong," she said. "But I thought it was just a phase. I never expected." She didn't finish. Just stared at the wall behind me like it held answers. We talked for hours that night. There were no plates smashed, no doors slammed. Just sadness. The kind of sadness that comes when two people realize they've become strangers inside a life they built together. The next morning I packed a bag. We didn't fight it. We just knew. I moved into a tiny apartment above a closed-down bookstore. The ceiling leaked when it rained and the heater sounded like it was dying in its sleep every night. But it was mine. Lana came by sometimes. Brought takeout, a bottle of wine, her crooked smile. She didn't try to fix me. Just sat with me, watched me, let me unravel on my own terms. But here's the thing nobody tells you about chasing freedom. There's a cost. You don't just get to break out of your old life and ride off into the sunset. You have to earn it. I was broke, unemployed, barely scraping by with freelance gigs and selling old vinyl online. Some days, I'd sit at the window and wonder if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. I missed routine. I missed stability. Hell, I missed knowing what the next day would look like. But even on the worst days, I never missed who I used to be. One night, Lana asked me, "What would you do if you weren't afraid of failing?" I didn't even hesitate. "Write a book." She smiled. "Then write it." Like it was that simple. Like I hadn't been dragging that dream behind me like a broken limb for 20 years. But maybe it was that simple. So I did. I wrote like a man possessed. Every night. Every spare second. In cafes, in laundromats, sitting cross-legged on the hardwood floor. It was messy. Raw. Honest. It wasn't just a story, it was me. And the more I wrote, the more pieces of myself I found buried in the lines. But here's the kicker. Just as things started to make sense, just when the pieces began to click, life tossed in a grenade. Lana told me she got an offer. A job. Out west. Full-time creative director at some startup in Seattle. Paid well. Big step up. She asked me to come with her. And I froze. Because freedom's great until you're asked to risk it all again. I sat with that question for days. "Come with me," she'd said. Like it was easy. Like I hadn't just scorched my life down to the studs trying to find myself. And now I was supposed to throw it all up in the air again? Seattle? That might as well have been Mars. I kept thinking about that tiny apartment, the leaky ceiling, the half-finished manuscript on my desk. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I'd bled for every inch of progress I'd made since losing my job, my marriage, my sense of who the hell I was. And yet, there she was, Lana. A storm and a lighthouse in one body. You don't owe me anything, she told me, voice calm. But don't say no because you're scared. And there it was. That damn word again. Scared. I was tired of being scared. But fear doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it hides behind words like practical and logical and not the right time. I didn't sleep much. My chest felt tight for days. Like I was wearing a shirt that didn't fit anymore but couldn't bring myself to take off. So I went for a walk. Just like I had months earlier when all this started. Ended up back at the park. The same old bench. The same swing set, rusted and creaking in the wind. But I wasn't the same. I thought about my dad, how he'd played it safe for nearly 4 decades. Never took a leap. Never gambled. Just stayed steady. He died quietly in his sleep at 63. Heart failure. I remember thinking, was he ever really happy? And now here I was, standing in the same shadow, about to make the same mistake. I went home. Sat at the desk. Stared at my book. Halfway through, just like my life had been. Always halfway. I opened a blank page and wrote 4 words in thick black ink. I will not wait. Then I picked up the phone. I called Lana. Told her I was in. She didn't scream or squeal or cry. She just said good. Like she already knew I would. 2 weeks later, we packed up what little we had and hit the road. No big plan. No job for me waiting on the other end. Just 2 people, a beat-up Honda Civic, and a highway stretched out like a dare. The trip itself felt like something out of a song. Motels with broken ice machines, late-night diners with neon buzzing like a mosquito in your ear, truck stops full of dreams and broken people. But I felt alive. God, I felt alive. We talked. We laughed. We fought once hard outside a gas station in Utah. But even that felt like progress. In Seattle, everything felt new. The air. The skyline. The people with their weird hats and their coffee addictions. Lana dove into her new job with the kind of energy that makes you jealous. And me? I wrote. I didn't care about publishing, about fame. I just wrote. Poured every mistake, every moment of fear, every inch of growth onto the page. And little by little, it stopped feeling like therapy. It started feeling like purpose. But even when things seem to click, life doesn't hand out clean endings. One rainy Tuesday, I got a call. It was Erin. She was sick. Real sick. And just like that, all the air got sucked out of the room. Her voice sounded thinner than I remembered. Not weak. Erin was never weak, but there was something in the way she said my name. Like she'd been rehearsing it for days. I didn't call to make things hard, she said. I just thought you should know. She had breast cancer. Stage 2, maybe 3. Caught late. Treatment already started. Chemo. Radiation. The works. I didn't ask why she called me. I already knew. We hadn't spoken since I left. Not really. A couple emails. One awkward exchange about signing divorce papers. But that was it. Now here she was on the other end of the line, telling me she might be dying. And somehow, I still mattered. I hung up and sat on the floor. The rain outside was relentless, classic Seattle. Lana was still at work. I could hear a drip from the kitchen faucet, but I couldn't move to shut it off. Guilt is a funny thing. It doesn't just knock, you invite it in. Make tea for it. Let it sleep on the couch. I didn't tell Lana about the call right away. I didn't know how. Instead, I paced. For days. I wrote feverishly, but nothing made sense. Words came out hollow. Scenes didn't land. My hands shook. Eventually, I cracked. Told her everything. She listened. She always did. Then she asked, gently but firmly, do you want to go back? I shook my head. No. I don't. But I have to see her. And I did. 2 days later, I was back in Ohio. That place hadn't changed one damn bit. Same cracked sidewalks. Same gas station sign blinking open even when it wasn't. Erin opened the door herself. Bald. Pale. Still fierce as hell behind the eyes. Didn't think you'd actually come, she said. Didn't think you'd want me to, I replied. She smiled. Fair. We didn't talk about what happened between us. Not at first. We talked about small things. The weather. Our old dog. Her sister's new boyfriend. I helped around the house. Cooked. Drove her to appointments. She didn't ask me to stay. I didn't offer. It wasn't like that. But there was something healing in the silence between us. One night, while she sat bundled under a blanket, she looked at me and said, you were right to leave. That hit harder than anything else. I was dying even before the cancer, she added. We both were. I didn't cry. I just sat beside her, holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping either of us tethered. Before I flew back to Seattle, she hugged me tight. Not out of romance. Not regret. Just real, human connection. The kind that transcends labels. You better finish that damn book, she whispered. I will, I promised. Back in Seattle, Lana picked me up from the airport. Said nothing. Just squeezed my hand the whole drive home. Later, I asked her, do you think I'm a coward? She looked at me like I'd lost my mind. You ran towards something terrifying, she said. You burned your life down to build a new one. That's not cowardice. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. But bravery, I was learning, wasn't a one-time act. It was a choice. Every day. To face your past. To risk your heart. To keep moving forward even when nothing makes sense. I opened my laptop that night and started rewriting the book from scratch. Not because the old version was bad, but because I was different now. Wounds and all. It took me 4 more months to finish the book. Not because I didn't have the time, God knows I did, but because I wanted to get it right. Every word felt like it had to matter. Not for an audience. For me. I wrote it like a confession. Like a map back through every twist and stumble, every cowardly choice and quiet act of courage. I didn't leave the bad parts out. I let the ugliness sit on the page. Let the mistakes breathe. And when it was done, truly done, I didn't feel relief. I felt empty. But in a good way. Like I'd finally put something down I'd been carrying for too damn long. I didn't rush to publish. Didn't send it to agents. It sat on my hard drive for weeks. A friend read it, just one. A guy from a writing group I joined after moving here. He passed it along to someone who knew someone. Next thing I knew, I was on a video call with an editor from a small indie press out of Portland. She looked at me through the screen and said, this feels like it was written by someone who finally got tired of lying to himself. I didn't say anything. Just smiled. We signed the deal 2 weeks later. It wasn't some flashy advance. No bestseller list. No book tour. But it was real. And it was mine. Lana cried when I told her. Then she dragged me out for margaritas and made me dance in the middle of a restaurant like a fool. We're still together, by the way. Different now, though. Less fire, more depth. We've been through some storms. We fight. We make up. We hold space for each other. Sometimes I think we're just 2 broken people who found the same rhythm. And that's enough. As for Erin, she made it through chemo. Beat the odds. She sends me photos sometimes. Her with her sister's kids. A sunrise from the lake house her aunt owns. She signs them with a simple, still here. That means more than she probably knows. People ask me now sometimes how I did it. How I changed. How I pulled myself out of that safe, gray, soul-numbing life. And I never know what to say. Because the truth is, there's no clean answer. No one speech. No single moment. Just a long string of tiny, terrifying choices. To quit the job. To kiss the stranger. To tell the truth. To face the wreckage. To keep writing. To stop waiting. And one day you look around and realize you're no longer afraid of fear itself. It's still there, of course. Lurking. But now I walk toward it. Because on the other side of fear, that's where everything lives.